Hey, I'm Donahue Baker, and you are tuned in to Kemtrails Podcast.
All right, welcome. You're tuned in to Chemtrails. I'm Trader Dre. Got my boy Mo Chris and my boy AP. How y'all fellas doing?
Yeah, man, I'm
Just
doing all
blessed,
right,
bro.
man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting day. We got Mr. A. Donahue Baker joining us. Donahue, why don't you introduce yourself to our fans, please?
Sure, I'm A. Donahue Baker. I'm a real estate developer, amongst other things, but really I'm a person that really is just out here trying to scream the virtue of building generational wealth. I don't try to convince anybody to build generational wealth. What I try to do is show the consequences of not building generational wealth. So basically for my family, I've built a portfolio of over 500 residential units in 3 different cities in America. And that's allowed me to build generational wealth for my family. So I know how that's affected my life, how it's changed my life. And I just try to impact that in the lives of other people as well.
Awesome. That's amazing, bro. We are definitely going to be diving into that story. But from what we understand, that's not how you got your start. And I'm going to let Mo Chris ask his questions regarding that.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm a fan of music, and I know that I know you produced a Grammy nominated album. Was it Music Soul Child, right?
Absolutely. I produced on music's biggest album, Just Listen.
Oh
That's my
yeah, oh yeah.
jam.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. That album was nominated for a Grammy, and as a producer, like that's quite an accomplishment to get to that level. There's people that have like long careers but never really get a Grammy nod. So for me, it was like something that was like I just felt like I was in the right place at the right time.
Oh yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's why I got a question. Like what makes you go from the music business to real estate?
Well, the life of a musician is up and down, right? So if you know any musicians, unless you really hit it big, it's hard living off music. You don't have a really consistent paycheck, and when you make a record, I say it's like making a baby. Like when you birth a child, you don't know if that child is going to be the president of the United States or is going to be homeless on the streets. You really don't know. All you could do is birth the child. And music business was exactly that. Like we would work sometimes, for a full year, but we really didn't know the outcome. We couldn't depend on that income. So for
Right.
me, real estate provided that stability to pursue whatever I wanted to pursue.
Right. It's kind of like investing, not just relying on one source of income, but putting like I said, not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, huh?
Absolutely. So for my story, it was music. I at the time when I did music, I went to college, so I was used to being broke, right? Because I grew up in the projects, really went to school, and that was my way out. And I was used to being broke. But once you get that first check, it's like, wow, this it's a lot of money. We got a 6-figure check, and I went and I said, look, I can do what everybody else is doing. I can go out there and buy a car or buy like assets that really mean nothing. Instead, I decided to invest in real estate. And it just so happens it was a great move because a few years later, my label got dropped and I
Mm.
needed to get money. And the fact that I bought a rental property really leveled out my income. So I was hurt, but I wasn't that hurt because I had some money coming in.
Like having some powder in reserve, man. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I listened to a couple of your interviews on some podcasts, and I know your one of your niches is basically converting people from thousandaires to millionaires. And so my question is, it's a couple, it's like a husband and a wife, and one is making like 80 and the other is making like 100,000. You invest in that, versus putting the money together. So I guess just dive a little deeper into how's that process of becoming a thousandaire to a millionaire.
Awesome. So let me explain that concept. So coming from, I grew up in New Jersey, but I grew up in the part of New Jersey that overlooked New York City, Manhattan. So every single day, I basically looked at the World Trade Center, the Empire State Building, skyscrapers, millions and millions of dollars, right? So the thing that I always envisioned wealth with was real estate, those buildings. Like, how do they get the money to amass the money to buy these buildings or build these buildings? It's always building in New York. So, like, very, very simplistically, I came up with the concept of the real estate guide or the real estate skyscraper to build generational wealth. And it's really based on about 7 levels of the skyscraper. The first level is where most Americans or most people live, and that's living in debt, right? I call them the cellar dwellers, the basement dwellers, because they're really in the basement, but they're really just living in debt, living paycheck to paycheck. But most people don't know it because they drive a really nice car, or they have like some nice jewelry or a couple pieces here and there. But when you look at their net worth, it's really non-existent. The vast majority of Americans, as a Black community, we bring in over $1.4 trillion a year on an annual basis to the gross national product. But our net worth is only $11,000. The average median net worth of the Black family is $11,000, which is basically poverty. It's not even $1,000 a month, right? So that's where the cellar dwellers live. That's the basement level. Then most people, they think, all right, if I save my way, I can get to the next level. The next level after you get out of debt is really just the ground floor of the skyscraper. That's where basically an 18-year-old is, right? An 18-year-old comes into the game. They really don't have a job per se, or they're making very little and they have no credit. Well, the 18-year-old, he's at the point where it's like, all right, I need to know what to do. How do I build? He doesn't know. He's clueless. So they lack knowledge, right? The first step, the first level to really start to build generational wealth and get to the next level is eliminating the number one expense that we have. The number one expense that most Americans have, you know what it is?
Housing.
Yeah,
It's your
mortgage.
rent.
Yeah, it's where you
It's your mortgage,
yeah.
your rent. So like
Shelter.
people that are on that path to build generational wealth, they figure out how to eliminate that expense and probably and using other people's money to eliminate it, right? So I tell people just starting out in the game, eliminate your rent expense. And how do you do that? You can do that through house hacking or living in buying a multifamily apartment complex or a multifamily building 1 to 4, getting the FHA loan, which you can basically purchase any property for 3.5% down. You live in one side and you rent out the other, right? And then the side that you live in basically is you do that for a year at your side, but the other units, whether it's a duplex or triplex, those tenants pay the mortgage. And at the end of that process, you can move out, but yet you'll be making money. If you could do that, you've eliminated the number one expense, your living expense, you're living rent free, and it allows you to think about other things in life, right? So there's a number of different levels, and let me know if I'm being too long-winded
Right.
in my answer, but I'm trying to get to the other levels. The next level, really, really quick, is once you eliminate your number one expense, the next level after that is understanding the power of leverage, understanding the power of real estate and how you could basically leverage money and leverage talents and leverage systems. So I tell people that next level is to go out there and basically get $1 million in debt. Because if you want to build generational wealth, you have to be a millionaire. So how do you get $1 million in debt? You get good debt. You get debt that pays for itself. You go out there and you basically create, between mortgages, between business credit, between syndications, joint ventures, you go out there and get $1 million in debt. The next level after that is creating $1 million in equity. Technically, that's the level at which you're technically a millionaire. The next level after that is you basically get $1 million in cash because you're buying cash flowing properties. And then the final level, the skyscraper, the penthouse level to the real estate roadmap is really getting to the point where you have $1 million a year in passive income coming into your house. And I know it's a little long-winded, but at the same token, there's significance in that statement to understand where you're going to end before you even start.
Let me just jump right in here, man, because that's first of all, I'm in agreement on that ground floor. How do you get past that first step? For a lot of people in America right now, their first step would probably be, how do we eliminate the debt that's keeping us in the, as you would call it, a cellar dweller. But for the rest of Americans and stuff like that, I gotta ask, man, your program and your process sounds simple, but sometimes simple don't mean easy. And and I gotta ask, how many people have you brought through this process?
The process is just starting. So number one, I had to get myself through the process, right? I had to build myself. So now I have a group of people that I'm bringing through the process. And my ultimate goal is multifold. My ultimate goal is to create a system that can create Black developers all across the country, right? So that's the first step, empower them. But in effect, once that happens, what I'm looking to do is just create a system where people understand that creating generational wealth, either through business or either through real estate, is the most effective way to build and most effective way to go about taking care of your family and building legacy. That's really the key to it, right? So I have a group right now. It's probably over about 200 people. Well, we're going to be walking through this step bit by bit. We're going to be teaching the principles level by level. How do we get from this point to this point? Like, I have practical things that we can do to get from every single level of the skyscraper.
Fascinating. All right. Well, let's we probably went a little long on that takeoff, but let's move into cruising altitude. As someone that has been in the music industry, if you had to give sort of your favorite artists, the ones that inspired you the most, who would you go with? Like top 2, top 3?
Oh man, that's easy. I would say top 1, number 1. I'm a New York guy, so I would have to say Nas. Right.
Oh,
Nas,
yeah.
I just did an episode. I do this show. It's called Millionaire Power Moves, right? And basically,
fantastic, by the way, I saw the first episode. That was fantastic.
Awesome. Well, the show, we analyze the power moves of some millionaires you know and some millionaires you don't. And we just did an episode. We just dropped the episode with Nas yesterday. So check that out.
To get more exclusive content from this interview, join our Facebook group at Kemtrails Podcast, where we get more in depth with A. Donahue Baker and The Layover.
When we left off, Donahue was telling us about the steps to go from a thousandaire to a millionaire. And believe me, that left all of us a little shook here. So we definitely gonna be diving a little deeper into this. I'm gonna throw it over to you, Mo Chris, man. You got anything you want to ask?
Yeah, there's so much I want to ask, but I guess I'll just say, I'm a vet. I let my listeners know that I'm a Navy vet. And, we have the VA housing loan. Like, how can we use the VA, like, how can we use it the right way to invest in real estate and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Definitely appreciate that. You're a vet. You're able to get property 0% down, 0% down, right? So that's one of the benefits of having a VA loan. So my advice to you would be definitely get a multifamily property. If you haven't gotten to that first floor, if you haven't gotten to that first level, and that first level, once again, is just taking care of being able to live rent free, Like if you haven't gotten there, that should be your first step. Because once you get there, it's going to free you up to do whatever you want to do. You won't be a slave to getting a job that you don't want. You won't be a slave to basically being forced, as long as you know that you're never going to be homeless, right? And so many vets come back after serving our country, and they're either afflicted by homelessness or some other affliction that makes them in a position that they can't take care of themselves. So I would tell you that should be your number one goal.
All right, I'm gonna jump right on in here, man. So I gotta ask. I mean, right now, we usually don't throw too many dates out on our show, but this is a particularly volatile period in both the economy, the markets. It's a lot of things going on in real estate where a lot of landlords not really feeling too safe about what's going on with the legislation that's allowing tenants to not pay rent and mortgages basically being in forbearance and things of that nature. Would you say this is a good time or a bad time to start taking these steps? Because I mean, this is a scary time for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
yeah. What would you say on that?
It's definitely a scary time, but the fact of the matter is that always going to be a scary time. And this is the point in time where wealth is created. When people are nervous, when prices are falling, when you can get properties at a discount, this is the time where you want to be out there doing the opposite of everyone else. Everybody's trying to sell and trying to,
Right.
think that this is the time. This is the time where I am like, look, I am ready. I'm showing people how to basically go about acquiring these properties. In a nutshell, it's like saving and locking your personal credit during this time. You want to hold on to cash, and you really want to establish your business. You want to establish your LLCs, and you want to build business credit and live within your LLCs. And the benefits of doing that is twofold. It's asset protection, but you get to leverage the power of your LLCs. And let's say we come out of this crisis. This is a situation we don't know how long it's going to last. I'm in New York, in the New York City area right now, and it's like, I know 3 people that died of COVID. Three actually healthy young people that passed away. So I'm just saying that at this point in time, it's really, really important for us to hold on to cash and use business and use your business and use your business credit to leverage and use your business credit to really max that out, as much as you can. Like me personally, for my circle, I get them between 50,000 and 100,000 in business credit. We did that last week. We did that to 11 people. We got them between 50,000 and $100,000 in business credit. I told them, lock your personal credit and live exclusively on your business credit. Max that out. And you know what? When we get to the other side of this thing, if you're super leveraged and you can't pay for the thing, what you do, because you set it up the right way, it's on a business, you do like Donald Trump. You do a BK, right? So Donald Trump has filed bankruptcy 4 times. 4 times Donald Trump filed bankruptcy, but he's never filed under his personal name. He's never filed under his personal name. So because he's never filed under his personal name, he can set up more LLCs the next day he files for bankruptcy. And he has over 400 LLCs. So it doesn't affect him. So as Black people, we have to know the game. We got to know the system. We have to think financially. We have to think asset protection. We have to think legacy. We have to think generational wealth. We have to think about the dollar. We have ethics. We do things, but there's laws that other people take advantage of the laws. We have to do the same thing. So I'm just putting it out there, and I know I get a little long-winded, but I get really excited
man,
about
this is
Nah.
fantastic information. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, you talking to some brothers that set up an LLC themselves, and we sitting there like, tell us more about this business credit.
And and that's what I was going to ask too, because you was talking about good debt, right? And
Right.
so when you're acquiring the good debt, and then you was talking about leveraging your LLCs and things like that, how do you not get into a point where you mismanaging or or like fall into a greater problem that you didn't intend to start?
Right. So everything in life is about discipline, right? So if somebody gives you $1 million today and you have a poor mentality or a poor mental mind state, you're gonna blow through that million like you never expected. It's gonna be gone probably in 2 or 3 months. Typical person, right? But if you have the right mind state, you can take that million and you can create 2 million in due time. So I tell people it's really all about discipline. When you're dealing with credit, it's really important that you buy assets. You don't fall into the consumerism trap. You buy things that pay off the debt. So for me personally, the reason why, one of the chief reasons why I was able to scale to 500 units is because I was able to basically buy things that paid for themselves. When we talk about that level of the skyscraper where you just went out and you go and you get, the goal is to go get $1 million in debt, you're getting $1 million in debt, but each dollar of that debt is being paid off by a tenant. So at the end of the day, they pay off the debt, but you hold on to the asset. So the discipline has to be there to say, I'm just going to buy assets, things that pay me for holding them. That's the definition of an asset. Now, if you buy a single family home, that's not an asset because it doesn't pay you. But if you buy a multifamily home, it pays you. So that's the definition of an asset. Buying assets with other people's money is how you create wealth, because eventually the money, the income that the asset kicks off pays for the debt. And eventually you're left with the asset. And that's how we build our wealth as a people.
I felt like he just dropped a gem just now.
Man, that was more than a gem. That was a diamond right there, man. Because I mean, even the way even the way you broke this down, Donahue. I mean, I got to look at it and I got to say, I've been on the path, and I've started. Me and my family, we've started on to getting into rental properties and things like that. But you specifically target multifamily, and
Yes.
I'm curious as to what made go that route, because there are a lot of people who do go single family, a lot of people who go that route, stick to residential, but you're pretty much kind of going straight commercial. Is that the way I interpret that? Yep.
That's absolutely correct. And
Okay.
the reason why is because I grew up in an urban environment where it's just people on top of people. So you can find a lot of multi-families. But if you're in the part of the country that's like a rural area or a place where there's not a lot of four families and things like that, you got to do single family houses and then just have more single family houses. But it's the same thing. In actuality, you just want that rental income, right? And that's the business model that I talk about. I don't get into wholesaling. Nothing wrong with wholesaling or flipping or doing things like that. But as we go through these cycles in real estate, buy and hold is the best approach, and it's the best strategy because it allows you to go through all the strategies. Doesn't, like, whether my property drops by 20%, I'm not going to sell because that's like selling the cash cow. I'm just going to hold on. As long as my tenants pay rent, I'm just going to continue to hold on in cash flow. But people will always need a place to live.
And that's a fact. One of the three things: food, clothing, and shelter.
Yep.
There you go. So
I got a question for you there, Donnie. Well, actually, it's a two-part. The first part is, have you ever seen the movie The Bankers with Anthony
Yes,
Mackie? Man, all
absolutely.
this stuff you
I
telling me,
love
bro,
that
it
movie.
sounds just like what you saying. It's like what you doing. Man, that's a
Right.
good movie. I told Trader Dre and Mo Chris they need to check that out. That's an excellent movie and it's based on a
Yeah.
true story. But
Samuel
my
Jackson in it too. Samuel
yeah,
Jackson is
Samuel
Yeah,
Jackson,
yeah.
Anthony Mackie, and what's her name? Fresh Prince.
Nia Long in
Nia
it.
Long, yeah, Nia
Oh,
Long.
Neil Long.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. But my second question is, man, I kind of want to take a step back from the business aspect, and I like to get into the mind of the person that we interviewing just to see where their mindset is, and see kind of like, what I'm saying, because a lot of people got money and they not doing that, they like, oh, that's their fault, they ain't grinding like me, so whatever, that's on them. But what made you like, nah, I'm bringing everybody with me, what made you want to do that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the projects. I grew up in affordable housing, right? So living in affordable housing, it's like you're surrounded by people that really depend on government assistance to really get by. So I could have focused on any aspect of real estate, but right now I primarily I I grew up in affordable housing to the point now I own affordable housing complexes, right? So that's to me, that's like the highest service that I can give is to give poor people, because that's what they are. I'm giving poor people the best possible housing experience that they can have. That's basically that's my way of giving back, because I remember how it was when I grew up. It wasn't the best housing facility. I didn't have the best landlord, but at the end of the day, we had a place to stay, and we just tolerated anything. The way that I run my properties, like the property we just purchased, a 100-unit apartment complex out here in central New Jersey, right? We could have just bought that property, and we made a lot of money. It was millions that was made on property, but we ended up taking $2 million, pumping it back into the property, upgrading the facility, giving the tenants top of the line residential facility, brand new roof, brand new parking, just the upgrade of the experience, so it doesn't feel like you're living in poverty. So that's part of the thing, and then it goes back to who I am, right? So when like we're going through this situation, I'm at home and I'm thinking, how can I help my community? Because I'm seeing people die from COVID. I'm seeing people just scared because they don't understand or they don't know what the next step is going to be. So one of the things, just to let you know, my mentality is that one thing that I did is I picked out, we're donating over 100 PPEs, the personal protective equipment, to hospitals, senior facilities. Over 100,000 of them are going out. Actually, I did an interview on our local TV station that we're working with. You heard of the hip hop group Naughty by Nature?
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So partnered with Naughty by Nature to basically do this. So they're from Newark, New Jersey, Irvington, that area. They grew up there and very well known. So I basically reached out to them and basically said, look, let's do this for the community. So we're constantly doing, and that was just something we just did a week or two ago, right? So the fact of the matter is we're constantly doing things like that to help out the community, to help out the people that are a little bit less fortunate than us.
I appreciate you, bro.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Hey, Chemtrail listeners, if you out there and you're making a positive impact in your community, well, we would love to showcase your work. Just email us at kemtrailspodcast@gmail.com.
So I know everybody's been wondering what's next for you, and I know that in the pipeline you got a book coming out, or is it already out?
It's actually already out. It's
Okay,
actually already out,
tell
and
us a little bit about it.
all right. Well, the title of the book is called Generational Wealth. That's the key, right? And in that book, I basically give people the step-by-step approach that they need to start building generational wealth. And it's really a book that I created. It's really an ebook, right? And I'm giving it out for free for anyone that, number one, they would have to sign up to my YouTube channel, which I'm always dropping jewels on YouTube. And I have I try to keep all my videos really short, but I have some great content and great things on the YouTube channel. But if you sign up for the YouTube channel and you join the Facebook group, the book is yours free of charge.
Awesome.
Oh.
And then if you don't want to do either one of those things, you can go to Amazon.com and purchase the book there.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So you mentioned earlier when you were kind of talking a little bit about the building of business credit, and I'm gonna jump back into it. My aspect on this show is almost always dealing with the financials, dealing with the things of that nature. So I gotta ask, when you say something like we're gonna get $1 million in debt, that's an even scarier number for a lot of people that could even imagine, because now they're like, oh man, I'm only $16,000 in credit card debt. Why would I get $1 million in this other debt? But then you shifted on it, and you talked about you're using that as business credit in order to do something else with.
Right.
And you spoke on Donald Trump having 400 LLCs. Well, we're just trying to figure out how the math works. You talked about getting 50K to 100K for some other people that had LLCs. That's not quite $1 million yet. So how many LLCs does it take to get $1 million?
All right, so I'll show you what we did last week, right? So we got 11 people between $50,000 and $100,000, right? Some of them a little more, some of them a little less, but that was $1 million. So last week we basically got 11 people $1 million. That's basically how it works. What it means is that we live in the #1 economy in the world. We live during the richest period in the history of mankind. There's more wealth available today than ever existed as a human, right? So what we have to know is that we can't be intimidated by numbers. That's number one. $1 million is really not, that's not a big number. It's to me, it's a small number. I'm sorry, but it's what it is. You take $1 million today. If you give somebody $1 million today that has a job, they still would have to work. Yeah. Even if, you can't, you need more than that, right? So everybody should be at least on the verge to being a millionaire. If you're not there, if you don't have the mentality to say, well, look, I am going to be a millionaire and know when you're going to be a millionaire, you're behind, because that's what everyone else is doing. So I'm just coming up with a way in which I can say, look, if I give you I see a lot of books back there anyway. I'm so into books. I want to kind of look at those titles, but I digress. I want to know what you're reading, Dre, because Dre got the library going on. But I digress. The goal is that if I give you $1 million, if somebody said, look, I'm gonna lend you $1 million, pay me back in a year, you should be able to take that million and make enough money where you can pay that person back and be way, way ahead, on your quest. And that's basically the same principle. I am showing you a way to create $1 million, right? And the way that I do it, it may not be $1 million for everyone, but everybody can have a business. Everybody can go out there and leverage that business. Everybody can have an alter ego, protected by the corporate veil, and build a lifestyle around that business, right? You guys do a podcast. Each one of you or 3 of you collectively together should be a part of the LLC. So you know what? I need to be on camera. So because I need to be on camera, I got to have a wardrobe. All my clothes is a tax write-off. You know what? I got to eat. We get together every day. My meals, a tax write-off. You know what? Sometimes I got to go to Jamaica. Sometimes I got to go to Cali. Sometimes I got to go to Aruba. You know what? We need to do our podcast on the road. You know what? Your plane ticket, your hotel, your experience over there, it's a tax write-off. And on top of that,
the Kemtrails vacation. There you go.
on top of that, I got to get around town in my car. That's a tax write-off. This is what I'm trying to say. The mentality should be, you need to have LLCs that everything you do, it's a deduction against your lifestyle. So you're not shelling out money to Uncle Sam, because that's what rich people do. We don't do that, but that's what rich people do.
That's incredible. Okay.
So basically what you just said was, everything we do, we need to have an LLC behind it. So at the end of the year, we writing it off. We basically are not paying nothing to pretty much.
What you need to do is simple as this. Get your personal credit, get your personal profile, You need to lock that thing, put it in a shoebox, and put it up. The only thing you should have on your personal credit, you should have some personal credit cards that you never use, but you should have them in case you need them, and they build your profile. You should have the home you live in, right? You should own your own home. The home you live in, it can be a multifamily or not. That's it. You shouldn't be putting your car on your personal credit because that's going to mess your DTI up, right? So what you do is you basically take your personal credit, lock that away. Now you live through your LLCs, you live through your businesses, and you can have multiple businesses. You know, like I said before, Donald Trump got 400 of them, right? So some things that you do might not be an expense, but you can send that to another business if you structure it the right way to make it an expense. Now, one of the things that I am, and I'm still a CPA, so I give tax advice, but I don't practice anymore. But this is how people create wealth. This is how wealth is created. You minimize the amount of dollars that you give to the IRS. You don't do tax avoidance. You don't do anything illegal. You know, this is all legal that I'm telling you. You just set up and live. Your lifestyle should be lived through your business. And that's how you avoid. If you make 100,000, you don't want to be giving 30,000 of it away to the government. What you want to do is you might make 100,000, but 25,000 goes towards your business. So the question becomes, if I have a $25,000 tax bill, would you rather give it to Uncle Sam, or would you rather take that 25,000 and put it in a business that's going to make you another 100,000?
Absolutely not even a question.
Mm.
So for most people, it's hard to get that mindset. So you mentioned that you're a CPA, or you're not a practicing CPA, but you
Right.
were a CPA. Would you say that's where would you say your experience as a CPA is what got you to this point where you started down that path, or would you say that you already
Yes.
kind of had that in mind?
No, definitely being a CPA, doing taxes for people that were doing real estate. You know, I learned a lot. I learned about a whole bunch of tricks, not just from the real estate perspective, but just also just wealth creation techniques. So that was invaluable experience, and I had some high net worth clients. And then you know, doing a return and seeing somebody that literally made $2-3 million in a year, and they're paying like 10,000 in taxes is incredible. It's,
Wow.
you know, so I'm like,
Yeah.
how is that possible? So then you start to look, and you're like, all right, this is how they structured it.
And,
you
and
know?
this don't involve anybody setting up their business in Northern Ireland. No shots at Amazon, but I'm just saying.
No offshore accounts. This is straight, straight legal stuff.
Wow.
Mm.
Mhm.
So look
I'm
at
sorry,
that.
man, but you got me fascinated. This is amazing to me, because what you're talking about is exactly what I always suspected was the case, but now I feel like I'm getting the insiders look into the system. Somebody's been inside and somebody's looking at it. Let me ask, if you had to estimate how many LLCs you currently have or have had in your professional career, what would you say you're at right now?
I'm at about 25 LLCs, but I'm like, I'm just the tip of the iceberg, right? But early in my career,
Mhm.
I set up 10 LLCs in a 2 months period. And that really, during that time, is when I was really able to skyrocket the size of my portfolio. So I just think that everyone should have an LLC, whether it's a profitable LLC or not. I just think it's a great way to do what I just told you,
Yeah.
leverage, create the tax situation. Everybody should have a side hustle, a business. It's the
So,
American way.
so what's kind of the downside of having an LLC? Like, if, for instance, let's say you've got an LLC, but for the last 2 years, you can't claim a profit or anything like that on that LLC. Is there any penalties or anything like that that the government will come after you for, or will they hit you with something that says, "Oh, you're just a hobby. You're not a real company because you're not turning a profit"? And I just wonder, does a normal person get treated like a Wall Street company? Because I know there's a lot of companies out there on Wall Street. They don't make no money. Like, I've yet to see Uber turn a profit, but they're still a real company. But does the average Joe get that when they file for an
Here's the
LLC?
Yes, but realistically, if you look at it just on the tax return basis, There's no difference between Uber and Joe Smo that doesn't have any business at all. There's no difference, literally. Now, yes, if you peel back the layer, I'm talking about on paper wise. One business loses a lot of money, and one person, they break even, right? And zero is breaking even, right? You're not losing and you're not gaining, but you still got no taxes, right? And even the company that's losing, they're not paying any taxes. So technically, it's the same thing. So what's to stop you from having a business that takes a loss every single year? But if you're smart, you should not take a loss every single year, because it goes back to the thing. If somebody gives you $100,000 and says, I'm going to loan you $100,000, and pay me back in a year, what could you do? If you can't think of something, I mean, think of whatever, think of any business, think of the wildest things you wanted to do. Even if you said, you know what, I'm going to go out and bet it all. You're still going to be in a better position, because you've taken a loss, you've created a tax write-off, right? Because now, if let's say you gambled on some obscure business, right? You came up with you wanted to be the first to bring back the whippy bug, right? And you invested $100,000 in a whippy bug business in the year 2000, right? You've lost $100,000, but you know what you've created? $100,000 tax write-off.
The hell is a whippy bug?
I didn't want to ask.
A whippy bug. That's an automobile that used to like with a whip. You know,
That must be some
yeah.
Jersey stuff, man. I
Yeah.
don't ain't never heard of that.
That was before. That was 150 years ago. You know, this was before the Model T.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see. So it was an upscale carriage. Okay.
Yeah.
I
That's
thought
what
you
it
said
is.
some slang or something. I didn't know what you was talking about, man.
Hey, we from different coasts, so you're gonna have to pardon. You got to pardon.
It's all good. Whatever it is, right? It could be anything. It's whatever it is. If you lost it all, you're still in a better position if you hadn't done anything at all.
So could someone legitimately create a system where they've got like an LLC, they're utilizing their credit to invest in other companies, sort of like a VC? Like, would that be legal? Is that legal?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So it's structured, and there's literally a business structure like that, right? So basically, if you can just, if I had a diagram, I would show you have like a holding company, and I'll show you how corporations do this all the time, by the way. When I was in corporate America, this is the type of tricks, the financial tricks that would go down. You would have like a parent company. Then that parent company would have a company over here that they would be a subsidiary of that was making good money. But then they would always buy this company over here that just was horrible, was making no money, right? But what they would do was push all the losses to this company over here. So this company over here was just taking major losses. Wow.
And so that's a major write-off. Right.
It made the stock price of this company look real good because all the losses were going over here. So, you know, these are the tricks that's played in corporate America, whether you realize it or not. That's why I personally don't invest in the stock market per se, because by the time like a company actually has a stock available, the money has already been made. So if I'm going to buy a piece of a company or invest in a company, I'm going to do it pre-IPO.
Wow. Okay. Man, y'all heard that? Listen, Mo Chris, we got to make sure that gets out. Like, put a highlight around that when we edit this thing up. That's amazing. This is some amazing information you're sharing with our audience, man. We do appreciate it, but we are starting to run a little bit long. So I'm going to take us into the landing. Make sure to join us and subscribe at www.kemtrails.mn.co. All right, we are at the landing. This has been an incredible experience, getting to tap into the knowledge of Mr. Donahue Baker right here. It's been a treat for us. Mr. Baker, where can our fans reach you? Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you and what you're doing?
You can find me on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter. Like I said, if you want the book for free, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we have a private Facebook group that is called the Generational Wealth Builders Inner Circle. And in that group, what we do is basically give you the step-by-step plan to create generational wealth, whether it's through business or whether it's through real estate, which is my favorite because that's how I was able to create generational wealth, through rental real estate. So I try to show people game. I try to give them help, try to guide them with setting up a business, getting business credit. I try to get them financing. I also have a fund. So if you're an entrepreneur that has an invention or has idea that needs to be vetted and you're looking for venture capital, I also invest in entrepreneurs. So that's another thing that I do as well. So reach out to me if I can help along your journey. I am definitely looking to create more Black real estate developers. So if you're thinking about getting into real estate development, definitely reach out. Let me show you some of the tricks that I've learned. And by that, I mean basically how you can own for yourself multi-million-dollar properties. I basically do that because I provide all the financing if you provide the deal. So basically, you can own without putting any money into it. So that's a unique business model, something that I've crafted to help other Black developers.
Outstanding. Mo Chris, go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, Donahue, man, I appreciate you for coming on to our show. I'd like to say thank you, man, and I learned something today. Hopefully, we get you back on the show. Yeah.
Anytime, brother.
Right, and like I say, you inspired me to step out there and just, I guess, who said that? Steve Harvey, just say jump, just so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah.
Man, Donahue, dog, I just want to say, man, I appreciate you for the night, bro. Like, and Trader Dre will tell you, man, because he always be lecturing me about all his business and stuff. Like, my mindset is not set up like that. And a lot of stuff you said tonight, Trader Dre's been saying as well. But I mean, all I did was just put it in perspective. But man, the way you broke stuff down tonight, man, that shit just like it's like kind of opened the door a little bit for us to come in. Now we like starting a peep game. And like the way you broke it down and you just made it so simple, like, you know, like they didn't even teach this stuff in school, and you kind of made it that you can relate it to us and we can relate to what you're talking about, and you made it personal, man. So I appreciate you, bro. And I think a lot of our listeners they gonna learn a lot tonight, man. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
As always, you guys can reach us on our Facebook page, on our website, www.kemtrailspodcast.mn.co. And as always, we love the fact that y'all rocking with us, and keep on. Are you looking for financial security? We all are. I'm Trader Dre, and whether you're a new or a veteran investor, join us at traderdre.com, where you can get the latest information on the markets and the news and understanding of how you can empower yourself to trade better for the future.
What up? What up? It's your boy AP. Make sure you follow us at Kemtrails Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Hit us up. Once again, that's Kemtrails Podcast at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Peace out.
Get your voice heard at www.kemtrails.mn.co. Join the community.